There is a reason the same things keep hurting you. Not because you are weak, not because the world is particularly cruel to you, but because nobody ever taught you what the ancient teachers knew for centuries before the modern world decided that emotions were problems to be solved rather than forces to be understood. Today, I want to give you 7 rules. Not motivational advice, not instructions to pretend you do not feel, not a manual for becoming cold or distant or unreachable. 7 rules that the ancient tradition passed down quietly, from teacher to student, for generations, because they understood something that most people spend an entire lifetime learning the hard way. Your peace is not something the world gives you. It is something you build, one rule at a time, one day at a time, one small conscious choice at a time. Stop for a moment before we begin. Feel where you are. Feel the ground beneath you. Feel the air entering your body. You are here, and you are ready for this. Rule 1. Stop explaining yourself to everyone. There is a teaching that has been passed down in the monasteries of these mountains for longer than I can remember. It says, the sun does not explain itself to the darkness. It simply rises. Think about how much of your energy, your precious, irreplaceable energy, you spend every single day explaining yourself to people who were never truly asking. Why you made that decision, why you chose that path, why you are the way you are, why you did not do what someone else expected, why you are still where you are and not somewhere else by now. Every explanation is a small surrender. Not because explaining is wrong. Sometimes clarity is necessary. Sometimes understanding between people requires honest communication. But there is a difference between offering understanding and seeking approval. And most people, if they are honest with themselves, are not explaining to create understanding. They are explaining to avoid judgment. They are explaining because somewhere deep inside they believe that if they can just make the other person understand clearly enough, if they can find the exact right words, that person will finally approve of them. And that approval will finally make them feel enough. But here is what the ancient teachers understood. The need for constant explanation is not a communication problem. It is a self-trust problem. When you are truly certain of your choices, when your decisions come from a place of genuine alignment with your own values, you do not feel the urgent need to justify them to everyone who questions them. The uncertainty inside you is what drives the explanation outside you. So the practice is not to become rude or dismissive. The practice is to go inside first. Before you explain yourself to anyone else, explain yourself to yourself. Ask, do I actually believe in this choice? Am I at peace with this decision? Am I living in alignment with what I know to be true for me? When the answer is yes, a genuine, grounded yes, you will find that the need to explain begins to quiet. Not because you stopped caring what others think, but because you started caring more about what you think. Rule 2. Pay attention to the tone of your voice. The ancient healers of the Himalayan tradition had a practice that most people would consider strange. Before diagnosing any illness of the body, they would first listen to the voice. Not the words, the voice. Because they understood something that took the modern world centuries to catch up to. The way you speak is a map of your inner landscape. When your voice carries unnecessary aggression, when it sharpens at moments that do not require sharpness, you are not responding to what is in front of you. You are responding to something old, something unresolved, something that happened before this conversation, before this day, before this version of yourself that is standing here right now. The anger in your voice is almost never about the moment. It is about the moments that were never properly processed. And on the other side, when your voice becomes too small, too apologetic, when every sentence sounds like a question even when it is a statement, when you speak as if you are asking permission to exist in the conversation. That too is a message. It says, somewhere inside, you do not yet fully believe you have the right to take up space. Neither extreme serves you. The ancient teaching was this: find the voice that is simultaneously gentle and firm, the voice that does not need to overpower to be heard, the voice that does not shrink to be accepted. That voice already exists inside you. It is the voice that speaks when you are most at peace with yourself. The practice is simple but not easy. Before you speak in a charged moment, pause. Just one breath and ask, which part of me is about to speak? Is it the part that is at peace, or is it the part that is afraid? The answer will tell you everything about the tone that is coming. Rule 3. Never respond in the moment. There is a story from the old text that I have carried with me for many years. A student once came to his teacher in a fury. Someone had insulted him publicly, had said things that were untrue and unkind, and said them loudly enough for others to hear. The student was shaking. He wanted to respond. He wanted to respond immediately and with full force. The teacher looked at him calmly and said, "What you are feeling right now is real, and in 3 days you will know exactly what to say, so say it then." The student protested. 3 days was too long. The moment would be lost. People would think he had no answer. The teacher smiled. The moment is never lost, but the wrong response often takes years to undo. The ancient tradition was unanimous on this principle. The space between what happens to you and how you respond, that space is where your freedom lives. When you respond immediately, you are not responding from yourself. You are responding from your wounds, from your patterns, from every previous version of this moment that has ever hurt you. And your response will carry all of that weight. But when you pause, when you create even a few seconds of space between the stimulus and the response, something changes. The heat begins to cool. The reactive mind begins to quiet. And the wiser part of you, the part that knows what you actually value and how you actually want to show up in this world, that part has a chance to speak. The pause is not weakness. The pause is the most powerful thing you can do in a charged moment. It is the difference between reacting and responding, between being controlled by the moment and being the one who controls how you meet it. Rule 4. Stop letting small things steal your peace. Now listen carefully. This is the rule most people resist the most, because it requires a kind of honesty that is genuinely uncomfortable. The ancient teachers had a saying, "What irritates you in the world outside is almost always something that lives unresolved in the world inside." Think about the last time something small completely derailed your day. A comment that should not have mattered, a tone someone used, a small injustice that rationally you know was minor but emotionally felt enormous. Why did it land so hard? The ancient tradition gives a clear answer. The things that trigger the strongest reactions in us are almost never really about the surface situation. They are touching something older, something that was wounded before, something that we have not yet fully made peace with inside ourselves. The person who irritates you with their arrogance, look carefully. Is there a part of you that fears your own arrogance, that was taught that confidence was wrong? The behavior that infuriates you with its carelessness, look carefully. Is there a part of you that secretly longs to be a little less careful, that carries the exhaustion of always being responsible? This is not comfortable to look at, but it is extraordinarily useful. Because when you understand that your strongest reactions are maps pointing back toward the unhealed parts of yourself, you stop being at the mercy of the world. You start being a student of yourself. Every irritation becomes information. Every trigger becomes a teacher. The practice is this. The next time something small pulls you completely out of your peace, do not fight the feeling and do not surrender to it. Simply ask, What is this really about? The answer will not always come immediately, but the question itself will begin to shift how the trigger lands. Rule 5. Develop firmness, not coldness. There is a tree that grows in the high passes of these mountains. It has survived centuries of storms, and if you look at it closely, you will see something remarkable. It is not rigid. The branches bend dramatically in the high winds. They flex and move and yield to forces far greater than themselves. But the roots hold. The roots go so deep, so wide, so far into the earth that no storm has ever been able to pull them free. That tree is the image the ancient teachers used when they spoke about emotional maturity. Not the wall that cannot be penetrated, not the stone face that shows nothing, but the tree deeply rooted, genuinely flexible, impossible to uproot. Most people confuse emotional strength with emotional distance. They believe that to be strong is to not feel. To be mature is to be unmoved. To be professional is to be cold. But the ancient tradition taught something very different. Suppressing emotion does not eliminate it. It only drives it underground, where it continues to influence every decision, every relationship, every moment of your life, but from a place where you can no longer see it or work with it consciously. The emotion you refuse to feel does not disappear. It simply finds another way out. In the sharpness of your voice when you did not mean to be sharp. In the withdrawal from someone you love when you did not mean to withdraw. In the sudden eruption that surprised even you. True firmness is not the absence of feeling. It is the capacity to feel fully without being swept away. To be moved without losing your footing. To allow the storm to pass through you without uprooting you. This is what the deep roots are for. Build your roots through daily practice, through honest self-examination, through the willingness to feel what needs to be felt rather than burying it beneath performance. And then let the branches bend. Rule 6. Seek respect, not validation. The ancient teachers told this story. A student asked, "Master, how do I make people think well of me?" The teacher replied, "Stop asking that question." The student was confused. He asked again. The teacher said, "The moment you begin living your life in answer to that question, you have given your life away." Here is the truth that most people spend decades learning. Validation is borrowed peace. It is real while it lasts. It feels good when it arrives, but it belongs to whoever is giving it, and they can take it back at any moment for any reason. The person who applauded you yesterday can criticize you tomorrow for the exact same quality. The group that accepted you completely can turn with one shift of opinion. If your peace depends on their approval, then your peace is never truly yours. Respect is different. Respect is earned through the consistency between what you say and what you do, between what you claim to value and how you actually live, between the person you present to the world and the person you are when no one is watching. Respect cannot be taken from you overnight, because it is built on something real, something that you did, something that you were, something that cannot be unsaid or undone. And more importantly, the kind of person who has learned to respect themselves does not need the world's validation to feel whole. They already know who they are. The practice is this. Every time you find yourself shaping your words or your choices to match what you think someone else wants to see, stop and ask the only question that actually matters. Is this true to who I am? If the answer is yes, proceed. If the answer is no, that is your work, not to perform differently for the audience, but to understand why you stopped trusting yourself. Rule 7. Emotional mastery is built every single day. I want to end with the most important truth of all. Everything I have shared with you today is not something you achieve. It is something you practice. There is no morning when you wake up and discover that you are finally done, that you have mastered your emotions completely, that nothing will ever disturb your peace again. That morning does not come. And the ancient teachers were honest about this. They said, "The mind is like a garden. Left unattended, it will grow whatever wants to grow, weeds and beauty alike, without preference, without order. Tended with daily attention, it becomes something extraordinary. Not perfect, not without difficulty, but intentional, alive, capable of producing things that would never grow on their own." The daily practice does not need to be large. It does not need to be dramatic or elaborate or impressive. It needs to be consistent. One moment each morning where you check in with yourself before the world gets to you first. One breath before you respond in a charged moment. One honest question when something triggers you beyond what seems reasonable. One small act of living in alignment with your values, even when no one is watching. These small daily acts are not preparation for the practice. They are the practice. And over months, over years, over a lifetime of these small conscious choices, something accumulates. Not perfection. Something better than perfection. A self that you recognize. A self that you trust. A self that can be moved by the storms of life without being destroyed by them. The ancient teachers called this the whole person. Not the person who has eliminated their shadows, but the person who has learned to walk with them consciously, to know them, to use them, to refuse to be ruled by what they cannot see. That is the work. It is never finished, and it is the most worthwhile work there is. 7 rules, not because the number is magic, but because each one points to the same truth from a different direction. Your peace is not something the world owes you. It is something you build quietly, daily, imperfectly, through the practice of knowing yourself more honestly than anyone else ever could. Start with one rule today, just one. The one that landed hardest, the one that made you pause, the one that felt uncomfortably close to something true. Start there. If this teaching reached something real in you today, go to the comments right now and write one word: protected. Not because you have arrived, because you have chosen the direction. Share this with someone whose peace you know is being stolen by things that should not have that much power over them. I am Master Liang. Stay present, my friend. The garden of the mind grows in the direction of your daily attention.